Okay, my name is Nick Orr, and I work for a large healthcare organization headquartered in Peoria, Illinois. And over here on this screen that's presenting right now, you see the couple of initials over there. It stands for Certified Business Continuity Professional, as well as Project Management Professional, a couple of certifications I use in my business aspects. Primarily, I'm in the IT division, but I'm going to make this presentation. And these certifications are not specific to IT. They are very general and generic. They can be small business, large businesses, divisions of businesses. So what I really want to point out here, though, is my address that I would like to use if you would like to contact me. Is my Gmail is 24/7 911. And I got that because I really do want to provide help whenever I can. So it's continuous help is what I was trying to look for that. So if you want to contact me, let me know if I can help you out in any way. Now, again, I said that I work for an IT division, and so a lot of you are business owners. So you probably know more about business than I am. You're the subject matter experts in there. But as I think about business, I really think about relationships, and that's what it boils down to. And when you're talking about relationships, we don't want to forget about you as well in there. We think about and we talk about your customers a lot. We think about the other individuals you work with, especially if you have a team of employees. But sometimes we don't think about some of the other services that you might use. Since we're doing this on the internet, one of the services that probably all of you are using is an internet service provider. So that's an example of somebody else that I might use throughout this presentation for people that you will interact with and you want to think about during this process. As I said, I work for an IT division, and a few years ago, I was fortunate enough to build our business continuity and disaster recovery program from scratch. And I utilized the National Institute of Standards and Technology process, NIST. And this was really is specific for IT and for larger organizations. And actually, it's utilized by government organizations in their data centers. But this isn't the normal circumstances, and this isn't where we want to do this. So I kind of stole that process, and now we're going to call it from NIST to NICS process. So these 7 steps are what I'm planning on going over in more detail. But before we actually go through each of those individually, I want to kind of bring up an idea of why we would even go through this exercise, and especially why at this point in time. Because a lot of times you're thinking about disaster recovery or business continuity as a preemptive type of planning process. Well, the disaster's already happened. We're in the middle of it. So again, when we're talking about the businesses of relationships, what we're doing right now is we're looking at how this relationship is changed or is going to be changing as we're going through this. And the one thing that a lot of people talk about when it's a relationship, whether it's a marriage or children in a family, is communication. So, really, what this process is going to do is to help develop your story, your unique message at a point in time. And also, as we go through this and progress, that story will change. So it's an iterative process. In other words, we're going to be going back through it and adapting as time changes. What I wanted to do also was that as soon as this event happened, I wanted to share what I thought was a very good example from my gym. I have a membership to a gym and I pay monthly. And they sent out a message, much along what I think that you can develop here, kind of stating what the state was for them. They still were going to require some cash flow, but they completely understood that they couldn't provide your services, so therefore they really didn't expect payments. So by default, they were just going to freeze everybody's membership. But they put in the ability for you to waive that payment. And knowing their circumstances, I knew that I was going to go back to this gym and continue to use them after this event happened. So they said that they would add another month onto the membership. I thought this was a great win-win situation. I'm able to help them out. I'm not impacted by this situation at this point in time. So I was happy to go ahead and do this. And I think you guys might want to think along that same line as we go through this. So how can we work with all these other individuals and try to build this win-win new relationship as this event occurs? It's kind of a slow moving disaster. So step one, called the policy statement. And again, these are probably business terms, and we really want to make them more personal. So back to, it's a message that you want to convey to other individuals, and it might change depending on who that other individual is. So if you're working with your banker or with a government entity around financial aspects, the message might be a little different than if you're working with your customers or with your employees. So again, I used the gym here as an example of a short 3 sentence, 4 sentence, a short paragraph. First time through this, I would guess that it might take you an hour at most to put this together. Kind of make your story, just clear out of what's happening to you at this point in time and where you believe you'll end up, where you're going to land at the end of this. Step two is a business impact analysis. Really, what you're doing here is listing all of the components, all of the things and the people that you use during your business. I made it very simple again. I categorized them into a high and low area. I bundled them together, utilities. If later on you need to bundle these out and break them out to, let's say, gas, water, electrical, internet providers, you can break these out later. And it's going to be, again, specific to your industry. If you're a restaurant, for instance, hot, clean water is going to be very important to you. So that might go onto the high area of a resource that you use in your business. Someone I had talked to earlier this week asked them about, how are things impacting? And they freely supplied that they had a nest egg and they were fine. They didn't need the cash on hand right now. That might change as this goes on, and you want to come back and review these. So try to just think about, as you will go through your daily process, all of the things that you might use, all of your tools, all of the other entities, the people, again, even all of the utilities that you might use, and just make a list and then categorize them in high or low or high, medium, and low. Building off the business impact analysis, and some processes actually flip these two, there's a risk assessment. So now that you know some of the areas that you'll be thinking about, your employees, your utilities, what's the probability that going forward, something's going to happen to these things that you are very reliant on in doing your day-to-day business? So down here also under this, what I listed as a known unknown variable, what's the duration of the lockdown? I made this slideshow before the weekend and that it would last for months. It was supposed to be over in a couple weeks. Well, now we know that it's going to be probably another month from now, at least, until this is done. As we go through this, through another iteration of the process, we might want to make a category of medium or move this lockdown into a high area of a risk that's going to happen. As I said, the step two, the impact analysis and risk assessments, sometimes people flip those two. They really go together when you're going through this process. And some will actually take the high lows of these along with the high low of these and create a matrix. So you find out what's high in criticality for usage, and you find out what's high in your probability of what's going to be impacting, and you focus on those things. Now, some of the benefits of doing this, again, other than just building your story and outlining everything, putting these things down on paper gets them out of your head and off your chest. And a lot of times you can look at these in a different light. And if something is now in an area of lower thoughts, it's not mixed in with everything else that's going on in your head. So the organization of this will actually help you out on your own terms of how you're thinking about all these things. Now, the next two kind of go together as well. Now that you have all of the areas that you want to focus on that you think are critical to your business, and all those things that might actually be probability of changing as things happen and go on through with this process. You want to think about what are your options if that was to happen. So again, if your employees or something that might be going out there looking for other jobs, have you actually talked with them to find out what their plans are? Find out their stories. Um, Follow the bailout options as they progress. Then talk with Andrew, talk with the Greater Peoria Economic Development Center, and find out the resources that they have. I have here highlighted a lot: talk, talk, communicate, ask, talk. At this point in time, there's not a whole lot of action other than communicating that you can do at this point in time, but it's going to set you up for those actions to be able to do those faster, and you'll actually have thought through the process beforehand. And the communication, when I say talk, a lot of that at this point is to listen. So I should say talk with them, talk with your landlord. I saw a interview with a couple of the Shark Tank people, Damon John and Kevin O'Leary, and this was something they listed out there as well. Try to find out the people that you kind of deal with on an ongoing basis and find out how this has impacted them as well. If you have rent for your building, maybe ask that person what their situation is. Their specific thought in that interview was see if they would give you a buy on maybe 3 months and alter your lease and add that onto the end. Look for win-win situations as you talk about these and write these down. As I said, the strategies then move into plans. If the strategies are the if this happens, the plans are the these are going to be action items you are going to take. So what I would like for you to do is say that this is Tuesday as I'm talking here today. And the first thing I would like for you to do in your plan is to, number one, go through Nick's business continuity plan and do these steps, create this process and write these things out. As you do that, then I think the rest of these steps for the plan will come together. These are all just examples. This isn't the plan that I think that you should do. This is simply an example of it. But down here on the last one is reevaluate what happened and make a plan for the next week. So whatever you thought was going to happen when you went and made through this plan, it probably won't happen exactly as you expect it to do. So go back through the plan, go back through step one. How is your message different? What things now have you thought about differently that might impact or what the risks might be? How has the government changed things that you might want to think about those other things as well and set up what your plan's going to be for the following week. Number 6, test, train, and exercise. The example for this, the best analogy I have are tornado drills or fire drills. So you test your fire smoke alarms. If it's again in a business setting, you train your employees what to do if those alarms go off, and you do the drills. I'm going to share a little story from our own building. It was a fairly new building, and we hadn't gone through any of the tests yet. We hadn't gone through the. They had actually tested all of our equipment, but we hadn't gone through a drill. And our equipment actually is an audible alarm. And what they did was they set up the training saying, okay, on Tuesday at 10 o'clock, we're going to do a drill of the fire alarms. So 10 o'clock on Tuesday, they did the fire alarms. And the audible says, go to the lowest level and exit the building. Well, our building has a basement. Half of the people heard the first part of the message and they went to the basement for a fire. The other half went outside, and it happened to be on the first Tuesday of the month at 10 o'clock, and those people went outside and heard the tornado drills going off. So sometimes you want to go through these exercises, and what I was saying earlier, what you expect to happen doesn't always happen. So we had to go back and say, okay, let's not do the exercises on the first Tuesday of the month at 10 o'clock. Let's try to change the time of that. And also, let's maybe in the testing, the audible, change where it says go to the lowest level. So now we can actually go outside for fires, and we actually go to the basement for tornadoes. So everybody knows where to do and what to do. This exercise program that you're doing right now, again, like we were saying before with planning, you're doing this testing in production. It's happening. It's happening slowly, but it's happening in real time. So this plan has to be flexible. So don't put too much time into it. List it, and then you'll go back through it, and then you'll add to those processes. Doing this, exercising, just like exercising, will make you stronger. It will make you more confident. It will let you breathe. As I was saying before, it's going to offset a lot of the stuff that's in your heart, on your chest, in your brain, and put it on paper. And when you do that, a lot of times you can look at that more critically. Um, and when others see you doing that, they're going to look at you and what you're doing and think, well, hey, he's got it all together, or she's got it all together. Um, and I didn't know where else to put this, but I think it's very important. Log and journal these days as you go through it. Everybody has a different process for how and you list your contacts or how you journal into what's happening. But do it. Do it somehow. Do it on a piece of physical paper. Put it on your calendar on your computer. Um, Put it into your phone as an audio recording. Whatever works for you, whatever seems to work best, because you'll forget about certain things when you want to go back through this again and go, oh yeah, who said that or who asked that question? And I want to make sure I answer that question in my message. You can go back through your journal, you can go back to your list and say, oh yeah, I did that. Oh yes, I said I was going to reach back out to this person. So I highly recommend that you take journaling as throughout the day when you're doing this. That's more detailed. Again, this process, not so much detailed, but list what you're doing, when you're doing it, who you're doing it with. The last step really isn't even a step. It simply is what I was saying before. Go back through steps 1 through 6. Um, when you meet the others, as I was saying, your message will change. You'll want to make it clearer, more concise. Again, the impacts and risks are going to change as things change real time. You're going to move from one side, from the left side to the right side. You're going to add. You're going to take things off as things happen. Hopefully, feel good is to always check something off your plan. You did that. You actually did call this person when you go through your plan. That is also a mental process that really helps you in your day to day to feel like you're really are still in the world and still happening. Right now, a lot of things don't feel that way, right, to a lot of people. So those are the 7 steps. And what we did is we talked about the business being people and the relationships between them, and the continuity, meaning that, it's supposed to be consistent, but things aren't consistent right now. They're changing. And the only thing that is consistent is change. That's a well-known saying. Don't have a clue who said it. Um, but with that, don't be the deer in the headlight. Take action. Do these steps. Follow the 7 steps that they go through. Review them and go back through them again and change them. That's my suggestion in what to be happening while this process, while this disaster is occurring. I even broke it down to less than 7 steps. As I said, the risk and impact kind of works together. Strategy and planning works together. The risk and impacts is what are you worried? What are the things that you're worried about? That's as simple as that. The strategy and planning, what are the options? Think through those and then say, that's the one I'm going to do. Really, that's it. Put that back into what your message is. These are things I'm concerned about, and this is what I'm planning on doing about it. It's a process to simply build that plan. The next few slides, Andrew will make available a template or an example of then what this message looks like. Do these other steps on scraps of paper or in a different area. Your message should probably be 1 page plus, maybe 2 pages. The one I wrote out here was actually on the fonts that were put on the page for the example, 1 page within the plan on the last page. So you can change it and not say policy. You can put your whatever into this. These are all just examples, again, to fill out in your template. On the risk and impacts, I kind of combine those again. You can break them out as separate, or you can use those, again, that information to create a narrative. It's more conversational to the individuals that you'll be using this with. This is, again, not just for yourself to have, but it's something that you might want to hand to somebody else and say, this is what's going on in my life right now. And to see this organized and written out in this manner, if you're going to a financial institution, something along that line, to the media even, to tell the story, this is what's happening and this is where it is. Now, for the media, you might want to pull out your financial information and not do that. For the bank or for government loans, you might want to have that projected out there. This is what I was thinking about I was going to happen. And now I'm going to get wiped out from my last 4 years, 3 years are going to be completely wiped out from where I started. That's a part of the story. Truthful, transparent, I think, is the best, again, for your relationships with these individuals that'll be going on. The strategy and plan. Okay, this is what I'm planning on doing. I'm planning on reopening. I'm planning on reopening stronger with extended hours, whatever it is that you plan to do once you go through this. And back to, I highlighted here, keep a list of those contacts, when you contacted them, who you contacted, what they said, what you said. It's going to be kind of important going forward. Um, the web links that the Greater Peoria Economic Development Center is listing out there. That's very helpful. List those somewhere. You can list them in this same document if you want to keep everything together back to your process that you are used to. You can keep them in separate areas. Totally up to you on that. And then again, what I say is put your action plan on the same paper. Today is Tuesday. In day, you might want to put this week's, well, today's the 31st, so it would have been the week of the 30th. Put this in here, say Tuesday. What you're going to do is Tuesday afternoon, I'm going to make a contingency plan following these 7 steps. And when you do that, you'll have a plan then for Wednesday, Thursday, and on Friday, review it and make a plan for the next week. Maybe copy this, put it back to the end of the document, and say for the week of the 6th. On Monday, I plan to do this. I plan to do this. Have that checklist of what you're planning on doing each and every day as you go through it. I want to come back up here to where I started. So why go through this exercise? A couple of personal stories or things that I've seen happen before. One, I live in a small town here, Washington, Illinois. A while back, a car dealership had a major fire and they burnt down to the ground. Now it's larger and they have other dealerships and they were going to be fine with that and everybody knew so. There was also a church right down the road who had just procured another large building very close to them with a very large parking lot. And they said, we'll hold off. You guys go ahead and move into there and do that. These relationships that we build, nobody thought less of that dealership for utilizing this win-win situation. Business owners are some of the most generous people to step up first. And what this might be is very difficult to flip that and be on the receiving side of that aspect. Just let you know, everybody is out there pulling for these businesses. And just like I wanted to do with my gym, it was a drop in their bucket, but that was my drop. And we can fill up that bucket if you can tell us what it is that you really can use from us. A little bit here and a little bit there. A little bit from your landlord, a little bit from your utility group saying, I can't pay these next few months. Or if you can hold off on me paying the next few months, I would be good with that. So if you can increase your cash flow and your revenue, if you can decrease your expenses simply by calling somebody, your landlord is probably not want to lose you and try to find a new tenant. So reach out to that individual, find out what their situation is and what they're planning on doing. Maybe they even have opportunities that other businesses have already folded up and have pulled out. Maybe they'll have a second location that you might be able to utilize and back to a win-win situation. The only way you're going to find out what these opportunities are out there is to have those conversations and to find out, and back to transparency. Just, get to know these individuals better and let them get to know you. So, other story, if you want, I can. Back in my Washington, I there was a tornado, 2013, it wiped out hundreds of houses, and a lot of people jumped in and was helping them out. But there was one business that really took a hit, and it was the golf course. And I stepped over to the individual and said, "How can I help you?" And he was a deer in the headlight. And I knew the individual. And again, his father actually started the golf course, and he was picking up there. And he didn't know what to do next. So I simply said, "I'm a planner. I can help plan things. I can't do probably anything to help specifically." So I put together a group of individuals. There was a SCORE volunteer. There was a lawyer who volunteered. There were media individuals, and one person specifically traveled around the world specifically for golf events. And they all came together and provided tons and tons of options for him to do. And the only way to do that is to let them know that you're available. What we ended up with, one of the things specifically, is that he had 3 different insurance policies, and the insurance company was not acting very nice with him. And we were able to very diligently itemize absolutely everything he had in the clubhouse, everything he had for equipment in his equipment shed, every tree he had on the golf course, put those out there, reached out to local as well as national suppliers for things, provided what the replacement costs were going to be on those. And he quickly got a full settlement from the insurance group at that point in time. So again, it was a group effort put together that he had this need, and we were quick and easy to help out. So some examples, and this is really the end of the presentation that I have. So if we have Andrew, um, any questions, or again, I definitely want to put my information up here, that 24/7 911@gmail.com. You're more than welcome to reach out to me with questions or comments.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nick, for sharing this presentation. I think it's going to be helpful for a lot of businesses going forward.